Now, have you had a cause to discuss your death? I mean, the date on which you die, and have you had the choice, or you had no choice but to select between your friends and who will go first? Well, that is what a group of friends talk about, because they can clearly see death walking briskly towards them. In this edition of JoyNews Prime, we begin with a grim reality of 46-year-old Gifty Labi and her friends, all of them members of Ghana's Renal Patient Association. They discuss who amongst them is the next to die, as their conditions continue to worsen due to the continuous closure of the renal unit of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. More of that shortly, but first, a father of 9 and a resident of Korle Gono, Kenneth Quay, is one of the 19 persons who have died within this last 6 months after the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital closed the doors of its renal dialysis unit to outpatients. That's according to the Renal Patient Association of Ghana. Hospital authorities say the facility is in debt due to the tune of 4 million cedis. Kenneth's wife, Marian Bangura, says financial difficulties forced her husband to reduce his dialysis treatment from thrice to once a week. The government's promise of settling the debt is yet to be fulfilled. Listen to Marian.
He had kidney failure. It became chronic. He was supposed to go for the dialysis treatment thrice, but he went once. His health deteriorated because of that. He became very weak and died later.
The
Korle Bu Teaching Hospital closed the doors of its renal dialysis unit to outpatients, so it was inaccessible for him. He had to resort to a private facility. He was supposed to do it 3 times, but he could only do it once.
Let's now listen to 46-year-old Gifty Labi, who tells my colleague Maxwell Agbagba that members of the Renal Patient Association discuss who will be the next to die as their conditions continues to worsen as a result of the closure.
The most painful one, his name is Charles. But
tell me about Charles.
Charles was a very young, vibrant guy, very handsome. We do send him going to buy food for us. Even when you won't believe he's sick. When there is something, he will be taking care of everything. Even if we are there and we ask the two of us, who will go first? Everybody will point to me.
If you say who will go first, what exactly are you talking about?
If we are saying who should die, they will point to me, they won't point him because he's young.
You freely discuss that?
Oh, sometimes we do. When we are there, we discuss what happens to us. Oh, today...
This is what you see death approaching?
We see death every day. We see.
How?
Sometimes, you are there, you may be on the machine, you might not know what will happen. Your heart can fail you, you can die. It comes with heart and diabetes. So if you have diabetes, if you have heart problem too, it causes your kidney to spoil. So that's it. So it hasn't been easy. A lot of young guys died within this from May to this day.
We can now listen to the PR of the Ministry of Health announcing to the country at midday that a sector minister has ordered the immediate reopening of the OPD renal dialysis unit of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, which has been shut for the past 5 months, 12 days. 6 hours after this communications, the renal dialysis unit remains closed to outpatients, despite the so-called directive from the Ministry of Health for it to be opened immediately.
The Honorable Minister have directed the Chief Executive of Korle Bu to, at a matter of urgency, make the place open and issue statements to the general public for Ghanaians to know that the place is open. The amount of money that we are supposed to pay, the old service, as we move on to see whether there will be an increment or not. We've not spoken about that, but we are hoping that they will comply with Honorable Minister's directive.
Well, so we know that there were concerns that Korle Bu raised. At least we're waiting for that statement to find out the details of the opening. But let me find out first, is it taking immediate effect, the opening of the renal dialysis unit?
Yes, from the directive of the Honorable Minister, supposed to take immediate effect.
And
the Chief Executive will know who has also assured that he will work towards that. We hope that he will take consider the directive of the Honorable Minister and take the opening seriously.
But listen to the CEO, he's more than willing to open, but the debt, outstanding debt, the 4 million cedis debt is the main concern, plus the cost of consumables subsequently. Has that all been sorted, you'd say?
Yes, as part of their discussion, of which I know the Honorable Minister has addressed a number of issues regarding the outstanding, and then the differences that will come after. And so they've spoken about it, and it's had a stakeholders discussion. A lot has been done, and we are sure that will be taken care of.
Well, the matter attracted parliamentary attention on Thursday. In fact, there was a bipartisan call directed at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to immediately reopen the outpatients department of its renal unit. Delivering a statement on the floor of the House, ranking member of the Health Committee described the hospital's closure of the facility as unconscionable. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Ashanti has more in the following report.
A frantic appeal to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to reopen the OPD of its renal unit to save lives. Already, the Renal Patients Association says a dozen of their colleagues have died following their inability to access healthcare services. According to Minority Spokesperson on Health, Kwabena Minta Kando, government must intervene to get the facility reopened immediately.
Parliament as a whole should be deeply concerned about the persistent closure of the renal unit outpatient department at Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. This situation has far-reaching implications for the well-being of dialysis patients in Ghana and raises serious questions about the commitment of government to transparency and accountability in our healthcare institutions. In the initial case of the facility's closure was attributed to scarcity of essential medical consumables required for dialysis. When dialysis medical consumables were finally procured, the service saw an unprecedented increase in fees from 380 Ghana cedis to 765.42. The Minister of Health and the hospital administration must, as a matter of priority, address this situation. The denial of essential healthcare services is a severe violation of patients' rights and a breach of public trust. We implore the government to work diligently with the hospital to rectify this situation and uphold its commitment to providing accessible and affordable healthcare service to all citizens. The paramount objective must be the prompt reopening of the renal unit outpatient department and the provision of essential subsidies to ensure that healthcare services are accessible and affordable for all citizens.
This call has found support from the majority leadership.
So I fully associate myself with the call for the minister to be programmed to appear. That is something we cannot compromise on. He must appear. And especially in a matter about the lives of our citizenry, we can't take for granted. It can happen to any of us. And so I'm fully associated with that call. It's about the lives of our people. Whatever it takes, he must appear. We must program him to appear and to brief us. Immediately, the Korle Bu renal unit should be open immediately. And there are some other actions that have been taken. That is why I'm emphasizing the call. And Speaker, we need you to bless this call that the minister should be programmed to come and make this statement formally on the floor of Parliament. He can't sit in his ministry and engage the media and make this statement. He must come to the representative of the people and make this statement formally in the House.
The Speaker has since summoned Health Minister Kyerematen Menu to appear before MPs on this urgent matter.
To come and brief us on the closure of the renal unit outpatient department and the upsurge of kidney-related problems in Ghana. I mean, the minister should come and tell us something. Almost everywhere people are talking about the kidney-related problems. He should come and tell us if the NHIS issue can also be captured in relating to kidney-related issues. I mean, he should come and tell us and to the extent the whole nation. So that is my directives.
The Renal Patients Association says its members and other kidney patients are dying, and more will die if government does not impress upon the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital to reopen the outpatient department of the renal unit of the hospital. This matter has become a big matter on the floor, and in a rare show of bipartisan unity, MPs on both sides have been asking the health minister to intervene and get this unit at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital open. MPs say that while citizens must do their best to protect themselves of kidney diseases, those who already have contracted such diseases must be protected by the state. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, in an attempt to mitigate another possible split from the party after the National Congress, the New Patriotic Party has bonded all 4 aspirants with a stringent undertaking. Now, this means that Kennedy Japan, Dr. Bawumia Adainimo, and Dr. Efriye Akoto are bound not to resign from the party if any of them should lose the elections. Now, this action stems from the precedent set by Alan Kyerematen, who resigned from the party and established a new movement. After coming in third in the Superdelegates Conference, General Secretary Justin Kodua Frimpong said the undertaking is necessary to ensure unity after the Congress. Samuel Imburo of our political desk has the rest of the story.
This decision taken by the 3 critical organs of the NPP stems from the action taken by Alan Kyerematen after the Superdelegates Conference. He broke away from the party with claims that the elections were skewed for a particular candidate. So in an attempt to prevent the recurrence of this event, the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodua, said all these aspirants have been made to sign this undertaking.
We're able to get the 4 aspirants contesting, namely Honorable Kennedy Japan, His Excellency Dr. Alhaji Muhammad Bawumia, Dr. Akoto Efriye, and Honorable Adenimo, all signing an undertaking. And in summary, what they signed to, and I'll read to all of you. 1 is to accept the primary election results. 2, to promote peace and cohesion. 3, in the event that they don't win, they will not resign from the party. 4, to support the winner of the primary. 5, to ensure and enforce mechanism that has been established by the party.
But is this undertaking legal, or it is just a moral guide? Chairman of the National Elections Committee of the NPP, Professor Mike Eronokwe, explains.
So they are morally binding, and we expect that all these gentlemen understand the full parameters of such an agreement. Nevertheless, it can be a standard of measure of judging a person in the future. You entered into this gentleman's agreement, you broke it, today you have come to say what? So it's as binding as it can be binding on people who are civilized and who know what they are about. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the NPP, Stephen Tim, is appealing to all aspirants to put the interests of the party before their own interest and rally behind any candidate that eventually emerges victorious.
The way forward for us to deal decisively with the widespread indiscipline, apathy, and general indifference in the party. I want to call specifically on the 4 flag bearer aspirants to commit to working as a team to ensure victory, even if they fail to win on Saturday, by rallying behind the eventual winner.
In all, over 204,000 delegates are expected to cast their ballots across all 275 constituencies dotted across the country. All eyes are fixed on the outcome of this election. Already, the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, has been tipped to win the elections. However, the margin is not certain. Reporting for Joy News, Samuel Mbura, Alisa Hotel, Accra.
Well, the party's branch in the United States has already voted to determine who amongst the four should lead the party. Isaac Kofi J. of our research desk joins me in studio with details. Kofi, what are the details pointing to?
So the details are actually on the big screen right now, and you can see it. We are having the first taste of how Saturday could be. I'm not saying can be, could be. In fact, this is NPP USA delegates who voted today, and this is the outcome. So
it means that the NPP USA says Bawumia should.
Absolutely. So 208. Let me break it down this way. So there were 411 delegates who were eligible to vote in this election. Only 270, translating to some, voter turnout of somewhere around 66%. They voted, and 208 of them, which is 77.04%, voted for Dr. Bawumia, and 60%, 22.22%, which is 60 votes, said, Kennedy Japan should take the second lead. Dr. Owusu Efriakoto and Francis Adenimo all had one, representing 0.37% respectively. Now, this creates a certain picture. You've seen the polls, right? Global Info Analytics and the UK one. So if you look at this, in the Global Info Analytics poll, they put Kennedy Japan around 25.5%. Now they put Dr. Bawumia at 43%. Now what is so important is that in that poll you have about 32%. That is those who have decided not to tell the pollsters how they'll vote and undecided. They were about 32%. That 32%, if all of them decide to vote for Dr. Bawumia, you get close to that 77% that we are talking about. And so they say fear delegates. I mean, that poll actually gives us lots to talk about the dynamics, who will join, Kennedy Japan, percentage that Bawumia will need to get that 50% plus one, Kennedy Japan as well, and the dark horse in the race, and Francis Adenimo, all of them eyeing for that big slot on Saturday. And trust me, your election headquarters, we've started already. We started computing the numbers, and this is what it looks like. This is the first taste of how Saturday is going to be. The NPP USA delegates have voted, and this is how they say the party should go. We'll have UK and other ones also joining.
If you combine this with the research that the Global Info Analytics did and the one from UK, should Dr. Owusu Efriakoto and Adenimo probably before Saturday say that, well, probably we've seen our fate, we're not going to go anywhere?
Well, they say polls are good, but they've done their homework, they've spoken to delegates, and they believe that they still stand that chance of clocking, the significant portion of the vote to be at that, spot that they all want. So the two of them, although they respect the polls, they still believe that, come on, we know the work we've done, we've spoken to delegates. If you are tipping Bawumia and Kennedy Japan to be in the front row, we say we also know what we've done, and we've spoken to delegates, and we trust that we will get significant portion of the votes. But if you look at what this figure is actually churning out versus what the polls are actually saying, then you get the impression that, because in the poll you see the two of them hovering around, I think 0.9 and 0.4%. It means that none of them was able to get 1%. But we are also talking about the possibility of a runoff. If the two of them, they are able to poll about 6%, Kennedy Japan also polls about 40% or 35%, then it becomes very tricky for Dr. Bawumia, who has been tipped to lead or to win Saturday's delegates, the primaries. It becomes difficult. Then you need to go to a runoff to determine that 50% plus one. But as it stands now, this is the decision of NPP USA delegates, and they put Bawumia ahead 77%. It's not a poll, this is actual
voting.
And it will be added to Saturday's tally to determine who actually wears the crown.
Interesting. Very interesting things that will be happening on Saturday. But the battleground is set. We will bring everything to you here from every corner of the country here on your election headquarters. Now, on this story, however, political marketing analyst Professor Kobi Wingsa thinks the aspirants in the race are the weakest ever presented by the NPP, pretending it cares on the party's electoral fortunes.
We're seeing NPP present very weak candidates to a national election like this. I mean, whichever candidate they actually choose, I don't think that they're in a poor position. I mean, let's look at what Sami was actually saying. Talking about a stable, currency. Everybody knows that this government is not meeting its debt obligations. So certainly, you would have a stable currency. We have an IMF, support coming in. Majority of the expenditure, as we're seeing, is not coming from individuals. It's coming from government. Why wouldn't you have a stable currency for the past 8 months? So it's definitely not the reality. If we're talking about the ideal situation where government is meeting its debt, obligations, where we have everything as normal, you're not going to have the city, being stable like this. So certainly, economic management has been in shambles, and I'm surprised that they are trying to tout, Dr. Bawumia's credentials. I have never heard him speak on the economy since the economy started being in tatters. I mean, let us be frank. Whenever they have spoken, they have actually attributed the situation to Ukraine and, of course, to COVID. But everybody knows that that's not the reality. That's not the truth. They have mismanaged this economy. Of course, if you look at the other candidate, Dr. Efri Akoto, nobody can tell you that that sector had never performed. The planting for food and jobs had been in shambles. He had actually come out with a very knee-jerk strategies, carton food from the village to the city center to Accra, just a 9-day wonder, nothing happened. So I don't think that they are telling the truth. Obviously, it's their work. They're supposed to protect their candidate. But I think that this is the first time in the life of the NPP presenting very weak candidates.
Now, the Ashanti Regional Security Council has warned against the deployment of heavily built men and other private security services to polling stations for Saturday's presidential primary of the new Patriotic Party. Personal security of various government officials are also banned from accessing the inner perimeter of polling stations. In a press release, the RECSEG insists security of the polls will be the sole responsibility of the state security. Nana Ojima has more on the region's preparation for the election.
Ashanti region has the second largest number of delegates in the NPP Presidential Primary, with 39,987 delegates. 2 of the 4 aspirants trace their roots to the region. Former Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Efri Akoto, and former MP for Mampong constituency, Francis Adenimo.
And I call upon the delegates to consider these visions that I'm sharing with you, both for the party and the nation, and compare it with my competitors who also want to bear the flag, to see for yourselves, not to be distracted by money, because how much money can anybody give you?
So it's an open field, depending on how you reach out. I come from the region. I'm a pure Ashanti by birth. Both parents of mine come from here. So I'm a pure Ashanti by birth. I'm also a Northerner by education, because I studied at Navrungu Secondary for 5 years, and that is how I've been able to rise in my educational career.
Vice President Dr. Bawumia had a commanding victory in the Superdelegates Conference in the Ashanti region, polling 97 of the 119 votes. Some identifiable groups of the new Patriotic Party at the Kejetia and Racecourse markets have made an appeal to delegates to repeat the gesture made the Vice President in the Superdelegates Congress.
Bawumia abua yan papa adu bebre.
Dr. Bawumia was very instrumental in Akufo-Addo's tenure. It's obvious that he understands government better than the others. We urge the delegates to vote for him on Saturday.
As traders, we interact a lot with our customers, and they all say Dr. Bawumia is the right person. We urge them to vote him.
Yes, Ramosi ahene. Yes, Ramunsi alaji hene ma yepa mo chaw.
Hu bie ene ukoda hotel kwa na unkita Ghana kada. Yenyo. Eti ye hu se bibi woni mu a obetimi aye bibi di aboa Omai Ghana any Ashanti region.
Another contender, Ken Ejapon, seems to be making gains in the region. The release by the Ashanti region RECSEC on the election is signed by Minister Simon Osei-Mensah. The statement barred bodyguards of ministers and other government appointees from the inner perimeter. They are also not expected to carry any weapons to the premises. Motorbikes, which are mostly used in perpetrating violence, are not allowed in and around the premises for the election. To prevent taking of photos of ballots, delegates are not to carry their phones to the inner premises of the polling stations. Persons with intent of wearing t-shirts or items with pictures and signage of any aspirants are cautioned to exercise restraint. Only staff of the Electoral Commission, accredited polling agents of aspirants, and delegates voting are allowed within the inner perimeter of the premises. All delegates are further advised against staying at the polling stations after casting their ballots. Though RECSEC is expecting all delegates to strictly adhere to the directives, they have given the security agencies the mandate to deal with any person who flouts the directives. Many in the Ashanti region, which remains the stronghold of the New Patriotic Party, are highly expectant of the results of the presidential primary. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ochima reporting.
Now, founder and leader for Movement for Change, Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen, has charged members of his political movement to help ensure his victory in 2024. Speaking at the registration of volunteers for the movement in the Ashanti region, Mr. Kyerematen said ending the continuous rule of both the NPP and the NDC will bring some significant change into Ghana's governance system. He says the political fortunes of the country have remained significantly low due to the economic instability spearheaded by the NPP and the NDC. And Abuachi Yadom has the rest of the story.
The independent political group Movement for Change, led by former Trade and Industries Minister Alan Kyerematen, is poised for victory in the 2024 presidential election. On Wednesday, November 1st, 2023, the movement took to the streets of Kumasi to register volunteers to help in their campaign to secure victory. Speaking at the first volunteer orientation and registration in Kumasi, leader of the movement Alan Kyerematen charged members to help put an end to the over 30-year rule of both NPP and NDC.
Ghana for Dodono say, aye efie duasa ani echi. Aye amonyo kromienu.
Ghanaians say the 32-year rule of NDC and NPP has not yielded any positive results.
Now, 32 years of the history of any country is very significant. And yet Ghana, and China. The person who said it took China less than 30 years to transform from one of the poorest countries into the second biggest economy in the world. 30 years. And me and I say me catch all. And so what I say, it is time for change.
Mr. Kyerematen is optimistic of forming the next government come 2024.
Movement, we want to move Ghana beyond the duopoly of NDC and NPP.
The movement wants to move Ghana beyond the duopoly of NDC and NPP. We should all bring our minds together to rule the country. Communications team member for the movement, Hope Senadoye, says the first step of registering volunteers has yielded positive results. He says over 4,000 members have been registered so far.
It's a movement. I mean, everywhere
people have been activated and they are calling every day in and out that they want to be part of it, and we show them how to register. Even yesterday, just within 2-3 hours, they registered 4,700 people around KJTR Adum area. Just yesterday, 4,700 people. So we should tell you the willingness of the people to join the movement. And I don't see it as a party structure where you need to go through bureaucracy and all those kind of things. So it's going to be spontaneous, and people, you know, the enthusiasm of the people will just move the movement like a bushfire.
Mr. Kyerematen is expected to begin his campaign across all 16 regions of Ghana in the coming days. For JoyNews, Nana Bwache Dankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
This is still JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. Welcome back from the break. Now, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration says it has not received any request for mass evacuation from Ghanaian citizens living in Israel. Israel's war on Hamas has led to the death of over 9,000 persons, with countries such as the United States of America carrying out an evacuation exercise for their nationals willing to be evacuated. At the start of the war, in a video emerged on social media with some individuals purported to be Ghanaians in Israel calling for help. However, in an interview with Blessed Soga on Foreign Affairs, Kwabena said Dankwa, Ghana's ambassador at large and special advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, says the video circulating on social media is fake, while adding that no request has been made for an evacuation.
As of now, we have not received requests from our citizens to be evacuated. So, of course, the government has learned a lot of lessons from especially what happened in Ukraine and so on. And we are ready to bring our people home to safety if it becomes necessary.
But you're not considering that now?
Well, I mean, it's something that we think about. But again, as I said, you know, there was something people said was a fake video of Ghanaians in Gaza.
Yes,
you know,
I've seen that video too, and a lot of
so
people
of course we were very much concerned, and this also says something about the environment that we live in, with disinformation and you know, all kinds of weaponized use of social media platforms.
So you say these were not Ghanaians? Is that what your assessment is telling you?
We went to great lengths.
Yeah, okay, right.
Because of course we were concerned, and we wanted to do whatever we could to secure them. And in that case, the information we got was that it was not genuine. Now, going back to Israel and Palestine,
right?
Ghana's position on that issue has not changed. You know, we've always supported the two-state solution based on secure and recognized borders for Israel and the Palestinians. So obviously you have to deal with that.
But one of the elements also is the religious aspect. And while this war may be remote from, you know, our territories, the fear is that there's a possibility of an, you know, a ripple effect spreading through, you know, the world and also Ghana. The point about how the country may be divided along religious lines, given the war going on in the Middle East. Are you mindful of the possible threats to national security? And what are you doing to de-escalate tension in that manner?
Blessed, this is also one of the misunderstandings of the situation. What is happening in Gaza or southern Israel is not religious, in the sense that, and I'm choosing my words carefully, in the sense that Palestinians have a huge number of Christians. You know, you can check the whatever. Hamas, I assume, proclaims the Islamic Jihad, which is different. So for Ghanaians to look at the situation through the prism of religion will be totally, it's difficult to make the argument. Again, as I'm saying, Ghana has taken a balanced and fair approach. And the majority of member states of the UN agree with us.
Now, Electroland Ghana Limited has donated items to the winners of the National Science and Maths Quiz. This donation was part of the promise made by the company on whoever won the competition and part of their social responsibilities. There is more in the following report.
This donation was part of commitments they made to winners of the competition and as a key sponsor for this year's contest. The marketing manager for Electroland Ghana Limited, Adisa Kumbra, said the donation was part of their corporate social responsibility.
We are here today to do a presentation of excellence to the hard-working boys who competed in the National Science and Maths Quiz 2023. And as a stakeholder in the broadcast of the quiz, it is only in line that we fulfill one of the corporate social responsibility we noted, and that is to reward any of the schools that emerge winner. And so that is why we are here this morning to present to all the three contestants NASCO 43 smart television and NASCO Bluetooth speaker. This is to aid them in learning because we are in the digital world and we are a technology company, so it should make it easy for them to be able to connect their mobile devices, their tablet devices, or even their computers to a bigger screen to aid them in learning.
The headmaster of the Presbyterian School, David Odija, thanked Electroland for recognizing their efforts and assured them of good use of the television.
Received the items on behalf of the board chairman, Dr. Sapon, and on behalf of the school's management staff and students, and to extend our appreciation to Electroland and their partners for this gesture. We are grateful for their donation, especially for recognizing the achievement of the school.
One of the contestants, Samuel Seshre Ichampong, who spoke on behalf of the students, thanked Electroland for their kind gesture. This is the 8th time the school is winning the contest.
On behalf of the team, we want to extend our gratitude to Electroland Limited for the donation and want to thank them for recognizing the efforts that have gone into the winning of this year's competition, and we hope they'll continue to sponsor the National Science and Maths Quiz, so education in Ghana is going to reach a higher level through it.
Karen Obing's report read to you.
This is still JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Showbiz.